welcome to the second episode of the 217 Horror Podcast. As of last week, just like last week, I am the Jameus, ready to and prepared to talk about all of your haunts every week. I am joined by the always lovely Ash Rose. Ashley, how are you doing today?
I'm good. We're recording in the morning. It's different for us. Well, it's not morning. It's afternoon, but to us that's morning.
It's kind of getting my football time. I hope everybody's doing fantastic on this wonderful, well, when you see it, Sunday night. We have a great show for you, a lot of pre-planned topics to talk about, and a TV show we get to talk about at the end this week, so that's fun. Let's get started. So, last week we talked about a test screening of the new Bachman adaptation, The Long Walk, from Francis Lawrence, the same filmmaker who did, and I believe that's his name, that did The Hunger Games and a couple other different similar movies.
Yeah.
I believe he did I, Robot too. I'm probably wrong on that, so don't quote me.
I don't know.
And so I got a chance to see it this weekend, and I thought it was interesting. I really liked it. I really liked the movie. I thought David Johnson is only a year removed from. He didn't do iRobot. He did I Am Legend, different Will Smith movie that starts. Either way, I knew it was something along those lines. The different. I got to see it. I thought David Johnson gave a stellar performance. I thought it was an Academy level performance, even though that movie has zero hopes at a nomination anytime soon. The performance was excellent. Cooper Hoffman gave a phenomenal performance as well. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree there. Of course, the son of Academy Award winner Philip Seymour Hoffman. The Judy Greer gave another great performance. What was great about that movie is it wasn't a horror. There wasn't many jump scares. There wasn't any jump scares. The horror was entirely about the situation, the fascist regime that they find themselves in. It was an allegory for classism that ultimately became a movie about how brotherhood isn't about relation or blood. It's about who you are in the trenches with in an experience so unique you wouldn't wish it on somebody else. And they really showed explored the human element of what would happen to you if you were in the long walk. If you were in the situation where if you stop, you get capped. And I'm not going to go into any spoilery details because the movie just came out this weekend. And I want to give people a chance to see the movie before I potentially spoil it. I think that's fair.
Fair enough. I think that's the case with a lot of let's call it what it is. I think that's the case with a lot of Stephen King style writing and thrillers, is that it really explores. There's different type. Let me rephrase that. Not all Stephen King's like that, but a good majority of Stephen King's novels and adaptations to film have that feel of a realistic horror in the real world. I mean, we can go on a long list of different Stephen King films that explore that.
One that is similar to The Long Walk in a lot of ways is Stand By Me.
Stand By Me. What's the other one that was I can't think of another one right off the top of my head. Lawnmower Man? No, not Lawnmower Man. What would be Lawnmower? What am I thinking?
Regardless,
but yeah, Stand By Me would be one of those.
Regardless, I think that it did a really good job exploring the human element. The concept of 50 different people from one from each state. Of course, it's 100 in the book, but in the movie it's 50. I liked the changes that they made from the book. By the way, I thought they served really well.
Did you read the book?
I read the book a long time ago. I don't remember that much of it.
Okay.
But I know they changed the mile per hour. I know they changed the number of participants. They changed the ending just a little bit, made it a little bit more ambiguous. From what I remember, but you have 50 people. The entire film hinges on how much you care about those participants. So it's very dialogue heavy, but it also explores why each one of them are taking the long walk. Why would somebody, well, in the movie, I'm trying to refrain from some of this, but in the movie, they kind of explain that nobody truly volunteers. So they kind of explore that concept too. But the concept of why they would volunteer for a scenario where they go through hell, and if they don't make it back, they get shot, is something that the average person wouldn't understand. So they really explored the why of it all, for not just for why this event exists, but why each person wants to be in the event. And I really like that. The problem I have, Ashley, is I understand I'm not the average film goer. I am at the theaters 3 or 4 times a week. I've done maybe 300 movies over the last 2 years.
You also write. People need to also know that you write reviews too, for films.
It's not even that. I would be going to the movies regardless because I just enjoy going.
Yeah, but I'm also saying like you're not considered the average moviegoer.
Oh, that's fair.
That's what I mean by you write reviews, and not even just for current films, like older films too.
And over those last 300 or so, it's probably a little more, might be a little less. I'm just ballparking. 150 a year sounds about right for me. I've had maybe 3 bad experiences, and I can tell you exactly what the bad experiences were.
I'm laughing because I think I know one of them.
Is it Twisters? I haven't told you the Twisters story.
You told me Twisters, and another one was what was it called? It was one of God. It was one of the Marvel films that just wasn't good.
No, I'm not talking about the movie being bad. I'm talking about the audience.
Oh, okay. 2 different things. Continue.
There's a lot. There's been a lot of movies that I really
the Twisters. The Twisters one I do recall. I
love Twisters movie. I thought Twisters was a very fun movie last year. So there's maybe 3 bad audience experiences I've had, and one of them was with The Long Walk. So I wrote this down, and I'm gonna find it real quick because I'm gonna forget everything that went down if I don't explore it. So the audience was not good for me, and I'm gonna preface this with saying I'm not the average film goer. That does not deter me from going to movies, but we're in a world where there are less people going to the movies than ever before. It's probably not true. Like there's been a spike in attendance the last year or so, but over the last 4 or 5 years since the pandemic, movie going habitually has gone down for most people. So if I'm not the average moviegoer, if somebody has gone to 1, 2, or even 0 movies, and The Long Walk was their first time back at theaters since the pandemic, and they get a piss poor experience, regardless of the movie, it's going to become harder to justify for them to go back to the movies when they can wait for streaming, and that jeopardizes the industry. That jeopardizes the art form. Go ahead, you were about to say something.
No, I was agreeing with you.
So it's very disheartening when I have a very bad audience. And I sit in the back of every theater. I like sitting middle back. And the entire row in front of me was just not good. So it was a group of people. And when I say group, I mean probably 10 people in this group, which I'm all for going to the movies in groups. I think the movies are a communal experience. I've gone to different movies with different groups. I kind of technically went with a group to The Long Walk. The issue I have is some of them walked in 15 minutes after showtime, only to immediately go surprise and just start having a full-blown conversation. 30 minutes into the movie, because you have to account for the 20 minutes of trailers or coming attractions. They started having a conversation, loudly asking what they missed. 2 of them left in the middle of the movie to go to the Dollar Tree in the next plaza over, and then came back with a bunch of bags full of snacks 20 minutes later.
audience etiquette.
One of them literally brought in a backpack full of snacks and kept throughout the movie turning on his flashlight, lifting his bag to his lap, and keeping the flashlight at eye level of other people to dig for different snacks he wanted, right? And if this was the worst part, that'd be one thing. There was a girl who kept taking pictures of everybody with their drinks with the flash on in the middle of the theater. But it was nothing like the girl next to her who was watching Instagram reels in the middle of the movie. And then at the end of the movie, they were talking about how they couldn't get into it. They didn't even give it a shot. One of them wasn't even paying attention from the moment it started.
So
Two of them walked in 50 minutes late.
You're referring to audience etiquette, just in general.
I'm referring to audience etiquette. Look, I'm all for the movie theaters as a communal experience. But the communal experience is you experience the emotions a movie takes you through together. It does not encourage conversation until after the movie is over.
I just think it's I just think it's rude in general.
I do too. But the way I'm going with this is if your group and you want to go do an activity, you all have to be film lovers to appreciate the communal experience that something like that would bring. And if you want to have conversation your entire time as a group, you have amusement parks, trampoline parks, bar trivia, bowling. Bowling's pretty inexpensive, all things considered. You could even do your own version of the long walk and have a conversation. But the movies aren't a place to go have that conversation. If you are going, and if you say something, these people are normally like, well, I paid to be here. Yeah, and I paid to be here to not deal with people like you. Don't be the reason somebody else does not want to come back to the movies. It's basically my barometer for how to behave in a movie theater.
Yeah, it's film it. It's just standard movie going etiquette. But minus the negatives, out of all the films and all the times you've been in the theater, what's the best experience you've ever had with an audience?
Best audience experience is not going to be surprising. I have two standout, and they both happened at the Art House Theater in Tampa that shows classic films, which makes sense because anybody who knows that place exists is inherently a film buff. Like, you have to be like a massive movie fan to go to an art house theater that doesn't show current movies.
I used to go to one in Atlanta, so I know what you're referring to.
The Tampa Theater did a double feature of Halloween and Scream last Halloween that I loved. The audience during Halloween was a little off keel, but the audience during Scream was phenomenal. And then the second one was earlier this year after David Lynch passed away, which that's something I reviewed. I did a big review on David Lynch and the Lynchian style, which you can read up on. They did a Lynch retrospective, and I went to a showing of Mulholland Drive. Phenomenal crowd. There was one point where somebody, I believe, either had a stroke or a heart attack, but they had to get carted out of the crowd, and the people with them made it so like it went over so smoothly that it wasn't a disruption to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of response from an audience and from the staff are absolutely incredible, and I want to put that over. Of course, I hope the guy lived, and I hope he's doing better. Of course.
The fact that you brought that up, you're like, wait, I hope he lived and he's doing better. But
for regular moviegoers, I tend to feel, Twisters aside, which is why Twisters was so shocking, because I did an early access IMAX with my sister because she was really excited to see that movie. She loved the original Bill Pullman movie. She was that Pullman or no? That was Paxton. Either way,
Paxton, other Bill.
It was Paxton.
Other Bill.
Mauritania was the sequel. I'm getting ahead of myself. She loved the original Bill Paxton movie. She's a big Lynn Powell fan. So she was very excited to see it. So we went to an early access Monday IMAX showing, which usually gets the best audiences, which is why I was so surprised that that audience wasn't. Because usually when you go to the premium format, early access, you're going to a more expensive showing, and you're going to a showing that isn't necessarily advertised. So you get people who are actively seeking out the movie instead of walking up to the box office going, sure, I'll see that. So you tend to get better crowds. But I love big blockbuster crowds, especially opening night. For however inconsistent a Marvel's quality is, Marvel fans always show up and they always get excited. So those tend to be fun crowds. Which is why if I go to see a Marvel, I will prioritize seeing it opening weekend, even if I'm not necessarily excited for the movie, because if I'm going to see it, I'm going to see it with the best crowd.
I understand.
I just wanted to. That's all. I don't want to spend.
You wanted to bet on movie going etiquette.
I don't want to spend too much more time on this, but especially with people who listen to film podcasts, they probably appreciate film and the art form more than the average person. But I do want to just remind people: don't be the reason somebody else doesn't want to come back.
Fair enough.
I think that it's just something that's really important that needs to be said at a time where people are starting to go back to the movie theaters, but we're not there yet. Have you gotten a chance to see The Long Walk? If not, are you looking forward to it?
Not yet, but I plan on it.
I've
been wanting to see it since I saw the trailer. So.
Okay.
I tend to prefer. I keep talking wrong. I tend to prefer Stephen King film adaptations over reading the novel. I know it sounds weird, but it's just, if you've read any Stephen King novel, sometimes there's just way too much going on in a Stephen King novel. So I tend to look forward to the film adaptations, but I always end up going back to compare notes. Like I do the same thing with Thinner.
I feel like somebody just wrote a video for the channel on Stephen King, and it kind of explored exactly what you just said.
Yeah, I haven't done the recording for that, but that should be the next episode that's coming up.
I don't think it's a hot take to say you prefer Stephen King movies. I mean, in a couple minutes, we're going to talk about the Conjuring box office. And the new Conjuring is only going to be the third horror film ever. It's on pace to be the third horror film ever to be a $500 million worldwide grosser. The first two are the two It movies. The It movies, you have Shawshank with Stephen King, right?
Yeah, Shawshank Redemption.
You have Shawshank, which is widely considered one of the greatest movies of all time. You have what was the movie Tom Hanks did that was
Green Mile.
Green Mile. Green Mile was phenomenal. You have all these different adaptations of Stephen King that are beloved films. Stand By Me, as mentioned.
I think out of all of them, I think Green Mile is the best one out of all the Stephen King adaptations. That's my personal opinion, but I do think Green Mile is probably far the best one.
It's certainly hard to argue. That's a very underrated movie.
Let me tell you, my father is not, loves films. He'll watch anything.
Right.
My father doesn't cry in a film, but he cried during the Green Mile.
I think what hurts the Green Mile in terms of Stephen King is it came out only like 5 years after Shawshank, but this was a 5-year period where the world was so much smaller, so everything felt more recent than it was in real time. And I think it was one of the first big Stephen King dramas to be compared to Shawshank, and that really
to be compared to himself.
And the Green Mile is phenomenal. Michael Clark Duncan gives a phenomenal performance in that, underrated performance in that.
So back to the Conjuring box office.
Yeah, let's move on to that.
Yeah, we're already over there, so we're going to get to that. And then speaking of people not really going to theaters as much, of course, before we get to all that, keep in mind these are our sponsors. Check them out, etc., etc. It'll pop up. Or if you're listening to the audio, you will hear them. Now, going on, we're going to talk about the Conjuring box office outtakes, and then people not really going to theaters as much, going towards streaming. We'll talk about, of course, Shudder as well. Shudder's always been a hot topic on any take, hot topic in a good sense.
I like Hot Topic. It's a phenomenal store. I buy most of my t-shirts there.
They change with the times. They go with the times. So give it to Hot Topic. And for those of you who want to know what back in the day that particular smell at Hot Topic was, it was the incense Na Champa super hit.
Did you work at Hot Topic?
No, but a friend of mine's older brother was the manager.
Okay.
Back when I was like in middle school and high school. So that's what that smell was, because people were like, what was that? Why did it always smell like it had that particular smell?
Nowadays, I just call that smell nostalgia.
Yeah. So if you want that nostalgia feel, go buy it. We're not sponsored by them, but it is on the Death Arts 13 Amazon storefront.
Be sure to buy all of your Death Arts 13 merchandise from the store. It helps support a wonderful channel, two wonderful artists.
Talk about
I wouldn't call me an artist. One wonderful artist and one guy who tends to ramble.
Anyways, let's go on to the Conjuring ticket.
So the Conjuring is obviously on pace for, as previously mentioned, a $500 million worldwide gross. It opened, and this is what I find interesting, and this is where I'm going to hit on with streaming. Recently, Warner Bros. CEO David Zaslav has recently been going on, not to be redundant, but he's recently talked about getting people back into the theaters, how the model needs to be theatrical. They've expanded their theatrical slate. It falls in line with the same thing David Ellison said right after he took over Paramount. It falls in line with the same thing that people at Amazon have been saying about expanding their theatrical slate. Apple, after de-escalating their theatrical slate, is starting to ramp it back up after the success of F1. The studios followed the Netflix model after Netflix disrupted the industry. And they changed their business model from a model that was tried and true for 100 years to follow the model of a tech company. Not a movie studio, a tech company who happens to run a movie studio, and start operating like tech companies with their streamers. The issue is it encouraged people to stop going to the theaters. And of course, you have Universal who de-escalated the theatrical slate. That doesn't help, but Universal is the one person who still hasn't pivoted back to the original business model. So we'll see how that goes. And once people got with the streaming, they stopped going to the theaters. And the problem is, it's not a profitable industry. There's only so much you can do because you have a set amount of consumers, you have a finite amount of money they can spend, especially in a world where everything's getting more expensive. So if you're spending blockbuster money on streaming originals, you're losing a lot of money. The issue is the model then lends itself to ad revenue and look at how many people are interested in our product, which fluffs up the stock. But again, there's only a finite amount of people who are going to watch these stuff because the market's oversaturated and there's only so much money to go around. And so they've had to revert back to streaming, back to theatrical. And that's why you're seeing more robust theatrical exhibitions and distributions. And the point I'm trying to make is the Conjuring had the recent Conjuring film doubled the largest opening for any film within the universe opening weekend domestically. It made $80 million domestically opening weekend. Unheard of for a horror movie, unheard of for most non-big budget movies. So what I think happened here is people spent the last 5 years discovering The Conjuring on streaming on, ironically, Zaslav's platform because The Conjuring is a Warner property. And when they binge all of these movies and fall in love with the characters, they're more likely to go to the theater because they want to see what happens to these characters next. That's what streaming should be. That's what Blockbuster was for the home video market when back in the day before streaming existed. You had a year between the theatrical exhibition, and so if people wanted to see a movie, they couldn't rent it for a year. They had to go to the theater. But the sequels always did better. Terminator 2 is a great example. The first Terminator was a modest success on a small budget.
I think you and I've talked about Terminator 2. Like, just in our own private conversations, we've talked about how great Terminator 2 is as a sequel.
I think both movies are phenomenal movies in completely different ways. I think the first Terminator is a phenomenal sci-fi kind of thriller horror adjacent movie, and I think Terminator 2 is a perfect action movie. So which I prefer kind of is on my mood.
Yeah.
But it's not even about is Terminator 2 better than Terminator 1. That's not why Terminator 2 was successful. Terminator 2 was a cultural phenomenon because people spent years. I think Terminator 2 was 91. The first Terminator was mid-80s.
Yeah. I think Terminator was in the 80s, I think, and then
Terminator 1 was 84. So there's a 7-year gap between the two Terminator movies. The first Terminator was a cult classic because it came with the rise of cable. It was always on the cable channels right when cable started, and it was one of the most popular home videos in the history of Blockbuster. So then naturally, the second one became bigger because the secondary ancillary market did its job. And that's what streaming should be. Streaming should be the modern day continuation of what Blockbuster was and what cable was. The streaming should serve as I have all these movies I can watch and I can rent all of them at once instead of I can only rent one Blockbuster video at once. You shouldn't base your entire business model on streaming. And I think that's the takeaway from the Conjuring's box office, is you allowed the secondary market to act as a secondary market. The horror crowd's always going to show up, and we'll get to that with Shudder. But the horror crowd's always going to show up. But let the casual moviegoer treat the secondary market like a secondary market and stop de-incentivizing them going to the theaters. And you're getting larger returns on the dividend because you can always make money on streaming after the theatrical run. But you can't make money in the theatrical run once it's on streaming.
Valid point. You want to go into Shudder and what we're going to discuss about it? Because I think that's a good lead into it.
Well, I wanted to ask you why you think The Conjuring was so much more successful than the previous entries into the franchise. Do you think it's because they were kind of advertising it as the last one? Or do you think it's because the franchise is larger than it was 4 years ago when the last one?
I think maybe that I know the franchise is large, but when it comes to horror, I have noticed that it goes in waves when we talk about films, like the success of horror. So there's always like an influx of a lot of horror films coming out one year, and then it'll go down, and then it builds to another influx. It comes in waves, just like music does. I think maybe they were I think the reason why the new one is so successful has a lot to do with the constant build and the advertising, and also the fact that they are calling it the last one. So I think marketing and the fact that it is the last one is really why that one is more successful than the other ones, is because of those particular two things. Also, keep in mind, the franchise has already been around for a long time.
Right.
So throughout those years, you're picking up new audiences and fans for that franchise during that time. So it's kind of like watching, let's go we're going to talk about this eventually in the show, probably at the end of the show. Talking about the success of Supernatural.
Right.
I didn't watch Supernatural until season 6 was coming out. So I ended up watching the beginning of the whole series.
The first 5 seasons are
to get to 6.
right.
So that is probably, I would guess, what a lot of people ended up doing with the Conjuring series as well. And then knowing that it was the last one, they ended up watching the majority, like the rest of them.
You mentioned that horror comes and goes in waves, and I was thinking the other night.
It does. It really does.
I think the wave right now is more sustained. I think the last 10 years of horror has just been every year outside of the 2 pandemic years, which have their own caveats. Outside of the 2 pandemic years, I think horror's been just killing it the last 10 years, year over year. Last year alone, we had Late Night with the Devil, we had The Substance, we had Alien Romulus, we had like a whole long list of just really strong horror. But I was looking the other day, and there's a handful of movies. There's The Others, there's American Psycho, which is at the top, and those 2 are at the very top of the decade. There's Coraline and there's Frailty. But other than that, the 2000s for horror is bleak. You have Saw, you have The Ring, you have a couple, but there's maybe one decent horror film a year in that decade. And then you look at something like the 80s is a lot weaker than the 70s. The 90s it picks up again. The 2000s it goes back down.
Yeah, the wave, like I said, it's going to go up and it goes down. Right now we're killing it. It's phenomenal.
Right.
Like the last couple of years.
And we'll go this
Next
is a
year it's
preview
going to
of
be better too, because I mean the Evil Dead franchise is also coming out with more films.
I'm gonna be real with you. I haven't liked those movies since Rami gave them up.
Since what?
Sam Raimi gave them up.
Oh, that's
This is kind of a look into 2 weeks from now, because we're going to be talking about the people who made this last wave happen. The young voices, the Fede Alvarez's, the Robert Eggers, the Ari Asters, the Corley Fargis, however you pronounce her name. Us Americans always butcher the French language, so I've been told by a popular TV show. 2 weeks from now, that is our episode. We are talking about the last 10 years of horror. So get excited for that. But a big player in the last 10 years of horror, since she's been trying to get me to go to this subject, is Shudder. What are your thoughts on Shudder, Ashley?
I like Shudder. I think it's better than Screambox.
Keep it brief. That's how people like it.
Like, honestly, I like Shudder. I have Shudder. I subscribe to Shudder annually. I am that person. And if Shudder, if you're out there and you hear this, we would like a promo code, and we will gladly sponsor and advertise for Shudder.
So I started subscribing to Shudder right around the pandemic. I was a little late to the train, but still a lot earlier.
The point is, you got on the train, Jameus. It doesn't matter if you were late to it. You got on it.
So right around the pandemic is when I joined Shudder. And I gave up my yearly membership a year ago, but I went to AMC Plus instead.
I also have AMC Plus.
Well, they offer everything that Shudder does. So it was one of those, if I'm going to pay for one, I'm not going to pay for both.
I feel you on that.
But either way, I still support IFC and the horror that IFC is doing. I think Shudder's movies are staunchly original. They did a movie last year called Red Rooms, which was a courtroom horror. Phenomenal. Of course, if you know what Red Rooms are, that really goes into the more human horror than any other element of horror. I thought Late Night with the Devil was one of my favorite movies of the decade. I
thought it was really good. I really enjoyed Late Night with the Devil.
Looking at the satanic panic of the 80s through the lens of an 80s late night show is a really fascinating concept. It's that kind of originality that gets us on the wave that we're on right now. I think Stop Motion is a movie every horror fan should check out. I think A Wounded Fawn, it was an underratedly good installment for the horror zeitgeist. I thought even something like Dangerous Animals that came out this year is a really fun spin on the shark and animal horror. I really like what they did.
We could have talked about that last week with Jaws.
I'm glad we kept it just the classic. Although I'm always for putting over new movies. What I liked about Dangerous Animals was it was a shark snuff film movie. Like Jaws is the horror of, well, do you want to go in the water where shark infested areas are? That's what Jaws is. What Dangerous Animals truly knew was we're not going to ever be Jaws. We're not going to be as well made. We're not going to be as popular. We're not going to be as iconic. So what they did was the shark horror comes from the guy wanting to make snuff films, and that was his weapon. He used the natural instinct of a shark as his murder weapon, and that's what made it stand out. That's what made it different among a genre of copycats, I think. And that's what Shudder does. Shudder gives different takes on more traditional horror, and that's what I really like about their content and all of that. But I don't know if you know this. IFC puts most of Shudder's stuff in theaters.
I did not know that.
In theaters alone, I've seen Late Night. I went to see Late Night with the Devil twice. I dragged somebody else to go see it with me. I saw Mad God. I saw Stop Motion. I saw Oddity, Ugly Stepsister, Get Away.
You know, I was going to start Ugly Stepsister.
I'll get to that in a second. Dangerous Animals, In a Violent Nature, which another movie that's very much a non-traditional take on a traditional horror.
I like In a Violent Nature.
I saw Rule Jenny Pin, Bloody Axe Wound. I feel like I've seen one or two more. Oh, earlier when I said I've seen bad movies in theaters, I did not like Abraham's Boys. That's one I saw in theaters. That's a Shudder original. I did not like that movie. I thought it was one of the worst takes of
I didn't have any interest in checking it out, so it's okay.
So I've seen well into double digits of streamers originals in theaters, and I think that's interesting. I think that's a niche streamer that understands low budget movies can turn a profit theatrically. There's less writing on our streaming service if we allow them to do such. And IFC has been very vocal about we don't want to kill the theatrical industry. The theatrical industry, even if we're not going to have any massive mega hits, is a big lifeline to our business model. And that's what you see with Good Boy. We mentioned In a Violent Nature. What did you like about In a Violent Nature? Because I have a feeling it's going to tie into what I'm about to say.
For a Shudder original, I thought in general it was a good film. I did like the aspect of it's filled from the perspective of the killer. So that's what I enjoyed about it. It was just something that hadn't been seen in quite some time, and then the attempts of it being seen, it always ended up changing throughout the film.
There's one killing in that movie where the girl's doing yoga. And he takes a hook and hooks her head through her spine, and it's the gnarliest thing I've ever seen.
But that's what I preferred about it. You know, that's just me. I can easily be pleased with the slasher film.
Well, the takeaway from what you just said is that it's shot from the point of view of the slasher himself. That's what I was hoping you would say, because that ties into exactly where I'm going with the upcoming Good Boy. There is a trailer that dropped of a movie called Good Boy,
I'll be honest with you. You sent it to me. I didn't get a chance to see it today. I'm sorry.
It's a supernatural. It was in both of our last 2 show notes because we didn't get to it last week.
Oh, I just had it. I've been busy. That's why we're filming early.
So, Good Boy is a supernatural horror shot through the perspective of a dog.
You know, actually, now that you say that, my sister did see the trailer, and she was telling me she wanted to see it.
So
no, I know what you're talking about because she told me about it, but I just hadn't seen it.
I believe that this is in the same vein as In the Violent Nature. How do we take a traditional horror concept and put a new perspective on it? Well, what characters are there who haven't had their perspective shown?
Well, that makes sense because they say, like, it's depending on whatever your belief system it is, they believe that animals, like pets, like whether it be cats or dogs.
Like Draven behind you?
Yeah, Draven. Draven says hi, by the way. He wanted to be part of the show. They, depending on whatever like superstitions you may have or wherever you grew up or your belief systems or whatever country you may be in, they believe that animals, particularly pets like either cats or dogs, can see spirits and ghosts. So it kind of makes sense that they would try to film that perspective as well into a horror film.
And I think it's a phenomenal concept. I don't know how good the movie's going to be, but I know I love the concept, and I know people love dogs. But the genre of dog movies is the most dog runs away, dog has to find his way home, generic trash.
How dare you talk about Homeward Bound like that? The Incredible Journey.
What's that Jeff Foxworthy bit? His family's on a plane. They're watching Homeward Bound and Incredible Journey, and his brother goes, "You know that ain't that them dog's real voice." And his wife gets mad and goes, "Thanks for spoiling it for everybody else." From the "You Might Be a Redneck" bit that everybody loved. There's a market for dog movies, but every dog movie is the same. You see one, you've seen them all, except I don't even know where I was going there.
It's okay.
You've seen one, you've seen them all. I think.
Wasn't there a comedy? Wasn't there a comedy dog film with Will Ferrell? Oh, I know you don't like Will Ferrell that much. Right?
I like Will Ferrell. See.
Oh no, you don't like Elf. That's the film you don't like.
Will Ferrell is just kind of hit or miss for me. I love Step Brothers. I love Old School. I love Talladega Nights. I love.
But not to interrupt you, Jameus, didn't he voice a dog in a film that was a comedy?
Probably. You said, wasn't there a dog comedy, I thought of, we were talking about Marvel earlier. Do you remember how in the toilet Downey Jr.'s career was right before Iron Man?
Well, I thought, I remember he didn't do much about, like...
The same year Iron Man came out. No, I lied. Iron Man was over. 2 years before Iron Man came out. He was the villain in Disney's remake of the Shaggy Dog.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I think of when you tell me dog comedy, because I was 5 when that came out, and that terrible movie was right in my wheelhouse as a kid.
Now I'm gonna keep trying to think of that fucking.
I can look it up real quick.
I think it was Will Ferrell. I think he voiced the dog.
That sounds like something Will Ferrell would do. There was a movie called Strays that came out recently.
That's the one I'm talking about, is Strays.
No, I did not see that.
I haven't seen it, but I was like, distinctly remember that voice.
He has a very major voice, a very distinct voice. But no, I love Will Ferrell. I just don't like. I think he does a lot of crap.
Yeah, I forgot. It's Elf you don't like. Anyways, let's get back to
So they shot this movie from the perspective of the dog, right? And the trailer went viral, and I mean viral. It was still trending top 10 on YouTube 3 weeks after it dropped. So they were going to give this their normal limited release, which their limited releases go to most markets. I live in Tampa, and I get vast majority of Shudder originals in theaters at the theater by my house. So if my market's getting it, they give a low theater count but a high market count. It's not like they're just put like a lot of limited releases that do low theater count will put it in every single theater in Manhattan, every single theater in Beverly Hills, every single theater in Atlanta, and that's about it. They do a higher market count and a lower theater count per market, which I like because it gives more people an opportunity to see the movie. But they're gonna give this a wide release. After the reception of the trailer, they pushed back the streaming date and are giving it a wide theatrical release in all major markets and bunch of theaters. Highest theater count of any Shudder movie. And what I want to say is this costs them no additional money. Well, it does because you have to do a little bit more of the marketing and the distribution. But it gives them a much better break-even point. So even if it doesn't do great, they're putting faith in their marketing team and their movie, and they're putting faith that audiences are going to put money where their mouth is. The We Want More original movie audience people. So I think that's interesting, and I wanted to point out, and I wanted to say, I don't know how good the movie's going to be. Obviously, I haven't seen it, but I wanted to give that a shout on the channel because I think that movie deserves support.
Fair enough. So we're going to close out and start talking about our classic review.
We have about 15, 20 minutes left in the show. I think we hit all of our major topics for the week.
We actually hit all the topics. Like that's rare for us, being that we always like stray off topic.
It's a horror podcast, and we were just talking about Will Ferrell.
Well, it's because you brought up like from the dog's point of view, and I'm like, wasn't there a film that Will Ferrell did?
But no, I like Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell needs to do a horror. He needs to do a horror film.
I think you could easily turn a movie like Superstar with him and Molly Shannon into a horror movie just with the perspective change. Of course, that's based on the old SNL character of Molly Shannon, but so our classic review for this week is not a movie because yesterday was the 20th anniversary of. I feel like there's a couple phrases you could say to anybody in our community, and they would immediately respond. And I feel like if you said the phrase, "Dad's on a hunting trip," you are immediately getting a response of, "And he hasn't been home in a couple of days." Every time. I feel like that's just that iconic in the horror punk community. And that's the mark of a great TV show. 20 years ago yesterday was the premiere of Supernatural. And I'm going to let Ashley take this one away. Because she just mentioned when she got into the fandom, it was a lot earlier than I did. So.
Well, okay, so I forgot it's been like 20 years since the first Supernatural episode. We can't forget, Jeffrey Dean Morgan was also in the first season of Supernatural. So that too. Yeah. Because he was he plays the father.
There's a great bit in like season 12 or 13 where Dean walks into a bunker with the was he Negan on? I can't think of his character's name. The Walking Dead.
Yeah, he's Negan.
So the bat that Negan has, Dean's carrying it when he walks into the bunker. And before throwing it out, he looks at Sam and goes, I think Dad would have really loved this.
I think he really. But first, I didn't see Supernatural when it debuted. Like I said, I watched it. I started watching it when season 6 came out. And the reason why is because at the time I worked for a call center and I worked graveyard shift. So, there's only a handful of us that work graveyard shift. Programming, credit card
Well, not in a
terminal.
call center, but when I work, I'd love to do graveyard shifts at new jobs.
Well, either way, there was a handful of us, and my job was to program credit card terminals in DOS coding. Yeah, trust me. It was a lot.
15 years ago.
No, they still, believe it or not, that coding system still used for credit
Really?
card terminals. Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah, still used for credit card terminals. That's what that programming is. Even when they moved to POS, is what you currently see at registers with touchscreen.
Right.
That's still all programmed the same. I don't know. There's probably some stuff that's changed over time, but either way, the only reason why I heard of Supernatural is because a friend of mine was talking about Supernatural, and I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, you've never seen Supernatural? It's on CW. And I'm like, no, I've never seen Supernatural. So I ended up watching Supernatural, and then at the time they were already on I think season 6 was going to premiere. So I legitimately went and bought seasons 1 through 5. So that's how I ended up watching Supernatural. But back to it, I think Supernatural is it's a cult phenomenon itself, and it still has a very large fan base. So I'm glad we're kind of bringing it up just to pay contribution and tribute to the first episode. But go ahead.
So its large fan base consists of somebody we both worked with, and I've worked with extensively. I mean extensively. Corey Brennan. And keep in mind, I knew Corey Brennan I've known him for 11 years now. So about 8 years before he got into our field of work. So him and I go way back, and we're really good friends. He spent the 6 first. We weren't really good friends until like 3 years in. So the next 6 years after that, he spent telling me, you need to watch Supernatural. You need to watch Supernatural. Every time Bon Jovi would come up, he'd send me the scene in that season 5 finale of them singing Dead or Alive and Jared coming in on the Richie Said More parts, which I actually really appreciate. And say, you need to watch this, as if somebody butchering one of my favorite songs would actually get me to watch the show. And he's like, you need to watch it, you need to watch it. So I didn't, because every time I would look at it, I'd go, oh, it's already 10 seasons in. Oh, it's already 11 seasons in. Bear in mind, I'd seen episodes here and there throughout the years, but I never actually sat and watched it. And there's a difference. So about 3 months after the finale is when I'm like, okay, I need to sit and watch this. And of course, the finale was during the pandemic. So I had nothing but free time. Easiest 15-season binge of my life. I thought I kind of gave up a little bit during, I believe it's season 7. Whichever one.
Season 7, it's a bit of a drag.
Whichever one is the Dick Roman season.
Yeah, it's a bit of a drag. I'll give you that.
I did not like the Dick Roman season. But other than that, it was a fairly easy binge. The first 5 seasons obviously are the best concise 5 seasons of television you'll ever see, I think. And it really I don't dislike the CW, especially that era. I like Dawson's Creek. Of course, that gave us one of my favorite actresses, and Michelle Williams, one of the best actresses of the generation, was launched by that show. I like One Tree Hill. Was Buffy CW?
I don't even remember. Buffy got syndicated in so many places I couldn't tell you. Because I didn't start watching Buffy until it was syndicated, like on USA.
Buffy was. I'm just gonna look that up real quick before it drives me crazy. Buffy was WB. So yeah, WB became CW.
Yeah, and also Smallville.
Smallville is really good. So CW has shows I like, but I don't think of the CW for quality TV. I think the CW really excelled in teen dramas and catering to a market that didn't have anybody on television catering to them, and that was really important. But Supernatural truly for the first 5 years was one of the best shows on television. I love the overlying thread of their mother, the demon that put the blood into Sam's mouth as a baby, Sam being the chosen one, them having to kill the devil is a phenomenal arc. And I love the Monster of the Week episodes. I'd put the Wendigo episode up against any episode. But,
That's a good one.
But I don't agree with the people who say it should have ended after 5. Because for me, my favorite episodes are the Tuesday, Pick and a Poke, Heat of the Moment, No Asia, dude, Asia, No Asia. I know this station sucks. The episode where Dean keeps dying over and over again is one of the best episodes.
Like Groundhog's Day, yeah. I think I really liked a lot of seasons after 5. So
the episode where they're going through all the different TV channels and Dean's and there's one bit that kills me where they're in a law show, like a cop procedural show, and they're wearing sunglasses at night, and Dean, always the classic rock purist, looks at Sam and goes, "Sam, I'm wearing sunglasses at night. You know who does that? No talent, douchebags." Just randomly take a shot at Corey Hart in the middle of the 2000s when nobody remembers he exists.
Yeah.
The episode where the Scooby-Doo episode is, I think, one of the best crossovers of any television show.
Didn't they just advertise that again? They're going to show it again or something?
I don't know, but I can go on Netflix and watch it. I'm probably going to.
No, I think there, or is there another one? I don't know. I just saw something about that. Always around the corner though, so it wouldn't surprise me.
There's a lot of truly great singular episodes of television I'd put up against. My favorite in the first 5 years is the wishful thinking episode where people go to the wishing well and they get their wish, and you get the teddy bear doctor bit. Like, I think that's one of the funniest episodes of TV I've ever seen. And that's what Supernatural did really well. They really had characters that were funny so that when the heavy stuff happened to them and they leaned into the horror aspect, you still enjoyed your time with the characters. And it really explored why the laughter needed to be there in their television show. And I think that's one thing that a lot of horror adjacent shows that try to be funny miss out on a lot. Mm-hmm. But like, I'd put that the season 4 episode with the well and the teddy bear doctor bit is one of the funniest episodes of TV I've ever seen. There are singular episodes of Supernatural from the last 10 years I'd put up against that. So I'm glad it went to 15 years, even though there's areas where it drags.
There are some areas, I think, to me, I could see how you would feel about season 7. I get that too, because I feel that way a little bit, that season 7 was like, I could skip it. Anytime, I also felt that way for some seasons after 10 too.
Right.
Like, there were just some seasons I just did not like after 10. So.
Of course, we've got to mention the supporting cast.
But I'm going to be honest with
Mark
you.
Shepard as Crowley. Jim Beaver as Bobby. Two of the best characters of in television history.
But I'm going to be honest with you and the audience when I say this. I have yet to see the series finale of Supernatural.
Oh, I was about to ask you about your thoughts on that.
No,
You know what happens.
No, I refuse to watch it because I just I have yet to accept that.
Do you mind if I spoil it or go into spoilers? Because I was going to go.
You can because everyone's already seen it, and all of TNA faithful, they were tweeting about the season finale.
I don't know how you're going to feel about this, but I know I'm in the minority who actually likes it. So the finale, and because I'm binging with somebody, I know somebody who's going to be watching this that is currently binging it for the first time. I think we should put a spoiler tag on this in post-op. So
I don't really. I mean, we can, but like, I don't think.
Okay, spoilers are coming. The finale ends with the Jack and Sam and Dean wiping out all of the monsters, and so are wiping out God basically. And so they make the better world. And Dean and Sam are going into retirement. There's still a couple of demons here and there that need to be hunted, but they're going to let the regular hunters take care of that. So Sam and Dean are going to go into retirement together. And they decide, we're going to do one final hunt, just for old time's sake. It's a basic monster of the week, one-of-the-mill hunt. Dean dies on the hunt. And because they just eradicated the person who kept bringing him back, Sam can't bring him back. So Dean dies, and basically you just see a fast flash forward Sam's the rest of his life. Sam lives a normal life, and the series ends with Sam meeting everybody in heaven.
Wow. I
a lot of people hate it because Dean dies.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you I like it, and it's the right call. Because the entire show, Dean's entire motivation is I want to hunt, I want to protect my brother. Those are his only two motivations. Every time he comes back from hell or anywhere he's been, he doesn't want to be back. He does not. Yeah, he has. I forget her name, but he has a life with the one girl and her kid after Sam goes to purgatory.
Yeah.
But he hates it the entire time because he actively doesn't want to be in retirement. Dean's entire character arc is, I'm going to ruin myself saving the world and protecting my brother. He saved the world and his brother didn't need protecting anymore. And he didn't want to be there. And you can tell he never wanted to go in retirement in the first place. So Dean gets his piece. His character gets his piece. And Sam's never going to have his life according to the history of the show. If Dean's there, that's always on the way. So Sam gets to live his life.
Yeah.
Without having to worry about his brother. I think I have my issues with the ending. I think it feels a little rushed. I think, of course, a lot of those problems they were filming during the pandemic, so they had to change the finish on the fly. So I get that. But for what they had to work with, I think it's a pretty good ending. And I will argue anybody who wants to tweet at me and argue.
Fair enough, but let's close out the show. Go ahead.
Where can the good people find you, Ashley?
You can find me anywhere at AROSEDISTORTION. I'm on all social media. I'm on slasher.tv at AROSEDISTORTION, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, or X, whatever, and all meta platforms and Blue Sky.
We do not call it X in this household.
Whatever, Twitter.
Twitter. It is an embarrassing name given to it by an embarrassing person. So you can follow me on Twitter at the Jameus. You can find all of my work at TWM, where I do the aforementioned movie reviews. Of course, you can find some more content I write at Death Arts 13. So be sure to like, subscribe, and continue to follow all content that this marvelous channel is going to continue to haunt you with.
How about your letterbox? Do you want to push? You have a letterbox?
Sure. This isn't really anything professional, of course. It's just me talking about.
You're like, of course.
So if you want to continue to see me talk about movies, you can follow me on Letterboxd at Jameus Mooney. My top 4 rotates, but right now my profile picture, speaking of horror, is Betty Davis in the makeup from whatever happened to Baby Jane.
Oh, that's a good one.
And in my top 4 is Catherine Deneuve's Repulsion. So there's a little bit of a horror feel in my top 4 right now, but that's gonna and my profile, but that's gonna change eventually. I talk about everything not just horror. Like my last two reviews are for The Long Walk and When Harry Met Sally. So it's not just like I talk
everything.
about.
He loves a good. He watches everything. He loves a good rom-com too.
That is a damn good rom-com. Billy Crystal is one of our most underrated comedians, and that is a perfect realistic rom-com. I feel like I've girly. Never mind. Don't need to go on a rant about When Harry Met Sally. But Rob Reiner's best. Sorry, Stand By Me, since I know you've come up a couple of times in the show. I talk about everything. If you just want to hang out, talk about movies, give me a follow at Jameus Mooney. I watch a lot of shit. So.
All right. Well, that's it for us. We'll see you next week.
Thank you again for joining us. Until next time, I hope we haunt your nightmares for the next